Yeah, no, we should be watching. But more specific is that's where we maybe out of this doesn't get funded more, such as do anything. So that's where it's going to actually spend to place it in. But we have this, like, again, try not to do that. It gets to that, hey, we don't have here now. Drives your big, that's my sign, all that, it impacts a lot of the water, we try to ship it. That's what it impacts. That's not really the access one, right, it may be shifted there, or it may, for whatever reason, that's kind of where, but originally when we first looked at this, again, 6-7 years ago, is a lot of people are now getting used to the roundabouts. So those hearing to people saying, hey, let's do a roundabout here. It's like, oh, wait. Yes, and that's
It's right here.
Yeah, and that's where we're like.
I think a real necessary customer. I think that would have both. A lot. Yeah. I mean, it's just. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, you never hear.
No, I don't. Again, so if you have comments on that, I'm interested in this, we can write it down. Oh, keep talking to you, that's fine. Online, on this paper, that's totally fine, and that's when we can take it back to the drawing board. Again, you guys live here, and that's usually gonna be something, hey, we're gonna shift it to this. People say, hey, this is, but that's kind of, that's the whole point of the one, if you guys have, a way to.
Sitting around. Even more meetings. We've actually started stuff in our blog.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the last one. That's all right.
Yes, no, well, definitely.
You guys ready?
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'll be doing.
Anything from us?
I am just putting the link for the comment form in the chat, and I am ready.
Yes. Advance feedback and if we.
They just shut off all business.
Yeah, so that is. The arrow. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, we're ready. It's 5:30.
So then,
Threw it in.
Thank you for.
I freaked out for.
All right, we are about ready to get started. So if everybody can grab a seat, we appreciate that. My name is Jordan Gainey. I'm the Public Relations Director for the NDOT East Central District, which covers Madison County. I want to thank you guys for coming out to the public information meeting about State Road 9 and Broadway Street, the intersection improvement project. This project is being proposed because of safety and efficiency needs. We're trying to limit the number of crashes there, specifically right angle crashes, and also make it a little bit more efficient. So you're going to be hearing, you just actually spoke to some of our members of our NDOT traffic team. We appreciate them coming out to answer some of your questions. Now you're going to hear from our partners at Lochner. We're going to give you a brief presentation about our process in identifying this need, and then also the alternatives laid out for you. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to Adam.
Lisa.
Lisa's in first.
Next one.
Okay, thank you so much for coming. Some of the topics that we will discuss today is the purpose and need of the project, why the project was scoped, what is needed out here on this intersection, the environmental impacts for this project, which are very minimal, proposed solutions, as you guys see back there on the boards, and then ways to contact us further. And then after this presentation, again, we're gonna do the exact same thing, another 30 minutes for more conversation and more questions. And then we're gonna have a QR code at the very end of this, for you can put your phone up and take it and do a formal public comment with that QR code, or you could go to that comment table and write down your comments, because all of the conversation tonight is not being recorded, but your comments will be recorded and responded to by the project team that are working on this project if you use the comment forms. Just want to make that clear before we start. Okay, everybody's seen the materials. We have the aerials, we have the existing conditions, project fact sheet. If someone doesn't have them, let us know. We can pass them out. Feel free to take extra home with you. Our project team, as you see, is available for questions and answers. If there's something you need, let us know. Maggie is here. Maggie is a project manager at NDOT. Jordan is here. He just spoke. He is the public relations director at NDOT. And then the consultant team is designing this and going through the federal process for this intersection. So Adam Higgins is managing the design process. John Sheriff, who's not here tonight, is the designer on this. I am the environmental manager, and so it is also community impacts with environmental, so this meeting goes into the environmental process, so I'm kind of keeping track of these tasks as well. And then Marie, who you met back there, is our public involvement specialist as well. So long story short, why we're here today is we are working through the NEPA process. This is an environmental process. The environmental process has public involvement as a part of it. This is a public information meeting. This is an informal meeting before we get too far into the design to talk to stakeholders that will be affected by this project. And I was really hoping that everybody here tonight was here. So when we saw everyone checking in, I was like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. So thank you so much for taking your time. And we really want your guys' comments and feedback on this project. This was a voluntary meeting that was suggested by NDOT to get your feedback before we go into a hearing. The hearing, I'll get to that later, but it's scheduled for the spring of 26. So we'll take all the comments back tonight and then regroup and do another public meeting for the hearing in the spring. So long story short, it will always evaluate a no build. In that process, they will always consider a no build, which is a do nothing alternative. And then they'll consider, and they will address all of the written public comments, and all the project teams will review, including the engineers, and every comment that they receive on this project. It also takes into the public. That's what people don't really think of when they think of NEPA. All the community impacts are also documented within this process. And how can they be avoided? How can they be mitigated? Why we still, improve the safety of this intersection? So this is a required slide. There's not a lot of environmental resources at this intersection. So we have no right of way anticipated on this project. There's a lot of it that right of way already out here. There's no wetlands, there's no waterways, there's no trees, there's no historic concerns, but there will be the permanent traffic alteration that is proposed right now, with that left turn lane being proposed as eliminated. So ML this is just one of the boards. This is the existing condition for everybody online. This is just showing, as it sits today, kind of how you could maneuver around this intersection. And for people online, if they want to put the comment at the end, that would be helpful as well. Purpose and need is the intersection improvement is needed due to the crashes. So specifically the right angle T-bone crashes from that left turn radius. And it will improve the safety, and it will also kind of like a secondary purpose and need will maintain the traffic mobility at the intersection. So perfect traffic movement, make sure we're not causing backups. That's a picture that one of my teammates took of a semi trying to turn and causing a backup live. So my edit is just reduce congestion, but really it's about addressing the T-bone collisions. These are existing conditions. These are just running through the intersection and taking photos of what it currently is right now. Some more of that. And then Adam, the design manager, will go through the collision history, the alternatives, and the proposed solution.
Thank you. So before, I'm a designer. Before we do our portion of work, our friends at NDOT spend a lot of time scoping a project. They look at, existing conditions. They look at their entire asset. So every road, intersections that are having issues, crash concerns, mobility or congestion concerns. And then they select projects through a formal process where they look at, in this case, crashes for a safety project, and ultimately come up with solutions that they think will alleviate, or reduce the amount of crashes, at an intersection. So I think I spoke to many of you here already, and every single person said, I've seen accidents at this intersection. I've seen some severe accidents at this intersection. So ultimately, this is a diagram showing incapacitating and fatal accidents. So those are the most severe type of accidents happening at the intersection due to the existing T intersection configuration. And we could, if you want to, I'm sure the traffic folks will help you dive into the numbers if you want to kind of get it a nitty gritty. But at a high level, we're having, yes, we have some accidents. There's a movement where there's a lane drop up there when maybe there's 5 accidents. But ultimately, the majority of the severe accidents are happening at the intersection, and those are primarily right angle or T-bone accidents, which are typically the most severe accident type.
Okay, I'll go the wrong way.
So, in the traffic, department at NDOT, they prepared a project scope and they looked at some alternatives. As Lisa mentioned, we always look at a no-build alternative, a do nothing. It costs nothing to do nothing. So that's always the lowest cost alternative. But it typically does not, meet the needs and improvements of the asset. So in this case, they did also, consider a roundabout. Typically roundabouts have much higher costs, but they are great at reducing crashes and they're really good at mobility, but they come at the cost of, the literal cost of construction cost as well as impacts at the intersection. So they also looked at somewhat of a unique intersection to NDOT, which is reducing the conflicts with what's called a continuous green T intersection. That ultimately means a concrete median. I'm sure you guys can all read, but I'm gonna read off the screen anyway. Concrete median will separate the southbound movement from the rest of the intersection, and a channelized right turn for the westbound movements will be removed. So we can go ahead and talk about that in a little more detail, what that means on the next slide. So if you're traveling on State Route 9 and you're traveling north, you will have a dedicated right turn to maintain your movements onto State Route 9. You will be signalized, so there will be stop control at that intersection instead of, which is signalized stop control. So sometimes cars may have a green light, sometimes they will have a red light versus the stop sign. Traveling on Broadway Street, traveling north on Broadway, if you want to turn onto the right bound back around to Scatterfield Road, you'll be able to do that. Otherwise, there'll be a dedicated stop lane when vehicles are attempting to turn left in front of you, which is providing that left turn access for southbound movements. So there'll be 2 lanes of traffic continuing north on Broadway. Traffic signal will be installed to manage traffic. Vehicles traveling south on Broadway Street that want to turn left on the State Route 9. So continue on State Route 9. We'll have a dedicated left turn lane with traffic signal to assist traffic movements. So if you look back on some of the crash, a lot of the people traveling south that want to make a left turn, that's where some of the number of the serious accidents are happening. They're pulling out in front of northbound traffic. And then southbound, this is what makes it a continuous green T, is southbound traffic will have 2 through lanes with the continuous green signal. So that's what's unique about this configuration with the intersection. It's allowed because of the T geometry, is that 2 of the lanes will always have a green and will always be able to move from north to south, making it continuous and also improving the mobility. So while we're primarily safety focused, with the current configuration that's been proposed, we are improving the mobility slightly through the intersection with this layout. So you kind of get a little bit extra bang for your buck. While we're addressing safety, we also improve mobility. So here's we have visuals around the room, but also for the folks online, we have some visuals here that kind of describe that. So ultimately, we started with Scatterfield Road. That's the northbound State Route 9, you can make that left turn. It will be stop controlled while these folks from Broadway have the green light. Folks from Broadway have a green light, they can continue this right-hand turn. We've actually made some improvements to the intersection for the very few truck movements that are there, but there is an apron to make that to make that turn. Otherwise, the two northbound lanes continue and that's stop controlled with a southbound left-hand turn. When that southbound left-hand turn, auxiliary lane is active. Otherwise, the two from north to south is the continuous green T as we illustrated. So hopefully, this can, actually put a picture to the words described on the previous screen. So, a few people have asked already about, what's gonna happen during construction. But we will be maintaining one lane of traffic in all directions, throughout the work zone. And short-term closures will be required as needed. So there are a few underground storm sewer structures. In order to dig a trench, we'll have to close the road for, a 1 day duration, 2 day duration, up to, maybe a weekend duration where they have to do some underground work. But otherwise, the proposal is that all traffic is maintained one lane in each direction. That includes access to business, and all the driveways. The time when your business, that access might be interrupted is where they're legitimately doing work in front of the driveway. They're milling, paving, placing pavement markings, during that time. But otherwise, when they're not working, the access to the business is maintained. This will also, from the contractor, require some coordination with the adjacent property owners, that they, as part of the NDOT standard specs, that they must maintain that access, while they're not, doing the work. And we will, through the NEPA process and our coordination, make sure that we are coordinating with schools, emergency responders, other entities that may be uncovered through the environmental process. If, the city or town or county bring up other people that we want to coordinate with, make sure they're on the list as well. So anticipated timeline, everything I described is a preliminary design process. So NDOT makes a great scope. We try our best to follow it to the best of our ability. We come up with a design that follows their concept. And then ultimately we're in this meeting soliciting your feedback. So we right now are at 35% through the design process, while we're soliciting your feedback. So in the next few months, we're gonna be taking your comments and Lisa is gonna be finalizing an environmental document that will be approvable and acceptable by NDOT. They're going to take the considerations, including the comments made here today, all the impacts in the environment and create a document that they deem acceptable. That goes through a multi-step process. So once that initial document is done in early 2026, in the spring, we're going to have a formal public hearing where we will do a similar process to this, but it is a formalized process so it has a little bit different nuance with the question and answer and a few other things, but very similar. But that feedback is solicited a little bit later in the process. So this is an additional opportunity to get that initial feedback earlier in the process. After we have that public hearing, we finalize all the comments, we make any final adjustments that we need to, and then we start in the final design. That's back in my realm. And in the fall, we do final design. The project lets after that, which is a formal bidding process with NDOT, and then barring any changes, right now the project is scheduled to start construction in 2027. So I promised a few of you that our presentation would be quick. Hopefully it was sufficiently succinct. We have the slides available. We have aerial illustrations. We have our recording. We have handouts. We have a QR code here. We have written comments you can take. And am I correct, Lisa, that if we do not receive a written comment, it will not be formalized. So I really encourage everyone here as well as online to provide those written comments. And my understanding is all those comments must be directly addressed. So if everybody has the same comment, make red signals purple, then we'll address it one time. But if any different comment we have, must be individually addressed prior to finalizing that next stage of design and the environmental document before that public hearing.
That's what we went through.
Excellent. So we're gonna be around for a little while. The NDOT team is here, to help answer any questions. I'll do the best of my ability to answer those questions as well. You're welcome to stay, ask more questions, but I definitely recommend filling out one of the comment cards or filling it out online, please.
Do you want, I apologize,
Sure.
do you want those comments to be like one-on-one personal discussion or like group forum discussion?
Go ahead.
I can answer that. Yeah. So
He's expert.
these conversations that you're having here at these boards are great. And we want you to have those and we want you guys to be able to have your questions answered. But a conversation with Mike McNeil at one of these displays doesn't go into the environmental document. So if you still have questions, if you still have concerns, if you still have recommendations for this project after your conversations with our NDOT team, that's when we want you to fill out that official comment. And that'll be submitted in the environmental document. And like Adam mentioned, that will be addressed by the project team. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I hardly many like right now.
Yeah, no, you feel free to have one-on-one conversations if you'd like to have group conversations, whatever you want. It's not super formal. This is an informal meeting, whatever you guys want to do back at the boards, just to get your questions answered. Yeah, but if you still have something that's lingering, make sure you fill out one of those comment forms.
Just to confirm, what's the deadline for that?
Number 12.
Okay.
Thank you, Marie.
And if they start in this 27, how long is it gonna take to finish it?
So if we have further comments or questions, we'll have those kind of informally. During our public information meetings, we don't typically have a question and answer. I was just trying to address this gentleman's question, but our project team would be happy to answer that afterwards.
So maybe if we said we release everyone to the board.
Yeah.
I think people are, think we're still in a classroom setting.
No,
so-
you guys are good. So presentation over. For those of you online, thank you
Thank
for
you so much.
joining. In the chat is the information for the public comment, and you have until December 12th to fill that out. But this will conclude our public information meeting. Thank you.
I thought it was just, there's only like 10 of us.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can start.